It is a beautiful Friday night at the Namoli Family Stadium for the first of 3 games between Tampa and Nova Southeastern. A fun 3-game series to kick off the weekend. I'm Taylor Storthy alongside Bruce Wozniak. And Bruce, how excited are you for tonight's game?
I am, and apparently the fans are too, because the Namoli Family Stadium is full tonight on a beautiful, as you mentioned, Friday night, 83 degrees, our game time temperature, and not unusual to see this much fan support for the visitors, as Nova Southeastern is located, quote-unquote, just a short 4 hours away in Fort Lauderdale, and the fans making the trek northwest to come over to West Central Florida and the home of the Tampa Spartans. And Taylor, 10-7, the one-loss record for Nova Southeastern, so they've had a good deal of action in this 2022 season thus far, and of course for the home Tampa Spartans, 11-5 as we're set to get underway.
In the circle for the Spartans is Curran Minor with the first pitch that is taken high for ball 1. And yeah, that's sort of a tale of the tape for both teams. The Sharks enter 10-7, the Spartans 11-5. Tampa recently coming off a strong 2-1 series win that also included a 13-8 offensive showcase where Curran Minor, who's already known for being an ace for the Spartans in the circle with a 3.14 ERA this season, was able to get a home run.
Yeah, Curran Minor is batting .370 this season, and I think that game was kind of what head coach Leslie Cantor has been waiting for the girls to find their hitting shoes and to really just unleash the offensive weaponry that they displayed in that game, and hoping obviously to give a similar treat to the home fans on hand here tonight.
The 1-2 is fouled away, and as you were mentioning, Tampa's offense hasn't always been here this season, but if the offense can play any way like they were in that 13-8 win, it should be a good and entertaining night for the fans. Minor ahead in the count here. The 1-2. And that is going to be a blooper to the left. It's going to get down. It was a great attempt there by Fanton to track it down, but that's a little too shallow. And we've seen Fanton make some really solid plays in the outfield, even when it comes to foul balls that are extremely hard to chase down. And that was a good attempt there, but just a little bit too shallow to retire the first batter. So once again, the 1-2 still alive here for Sydney Legere. And good eye from Legere to take it outside for ball 2.
You know, Taylor, interesting that you mentioned about the big offensive fireworks, the 13-8 win, because prior to that, this season, Tampa's 2 biggest one-game offensive outings were a 5-run output and a 6-run output. So to imply that all of the other games they were scoring 4 runs or less, and all of a sudden to unleash that offense the way they did. And this was just a week ago tomorrow, by the way. So very recent in their minds, and hopefully they've kind of kept throughout the week what their formula was on that day and be able to repeat it tonight and or in tomorrow's doubleheader.
So the 2-2 is going to be grounded to second, but not able to make the play is Alexa Russo. It looked like a routine ground ball, but just sometimes the glove placement can be hard to guess on those bounces, and it allows for a hit. I think that's how it will be scored.
I would score that an error myself. That was a routine ground ball, as you mentioned, and really should have just been automatic for Alexa Russo to field that one. So if I'm scoring it, that's an error on Russo, and a tough way for UT to start the game, especially here at home, and knowing that this is the beginning of 3 games in less than 24 hours. You obviously want to come out on the right foot, so let's hope that they can bounce back quickly from that miscue by Alexa Russo.
Yep, and that is a confirmation. It is graded as an error. Trying to steal second, and it's going to make it in time. Great reactions from Chevalier, but also great speed from Sydney Legere to be able to nab second. It's currently a 1-1 count there for Riley Langwell. Langwell tried to lay down a bunt to help the steal, but the bunt wasn't necessary as the base was stolen regardless. The 1-1. That will be fouled away. So once again, a 1-2 count. Your switch for now. Let's see about that.
Corinne Miner looks like she's locked in, and the Spartans have to hope that's the case. What with that runner now being on second.
And that foul ball will drop, not able to be caught, and the at-bat will stay alive here. And so far, Nova have gone down earlier in the counts, but have been able to recover relatively well. We saw the ground ball hit that led to the error that had come from a 1-2 to a 2-2 count. So pressure for Miner in the circle so far, but a chance to try to record the first out with a runner in scoring position here. And that is strike 3. Corinne Miner is able to record the first strikeout of the day with a very nicely placed pitch. And Langwell was trying to go around but pulled out at the last moment, and it just was the wrong move to check up there because it was in the zone. And there's now one away, as now Tia Williams will step up for the Sharks.
Tia Williams, wow, 446 average so far this season, and 446 in a very active season. We're talking 56 at-bats, and so it's obvious that head coach Julie Lemaire is going to put somebody like that in the number 3 spot where Williams is hitting from this evening.
Williams, after the foul, down 1-1 in the count. Williams is the exact player you want in this situation, with a runner on second, a chance to get an early lead against a pitcher who's known to be very tough to face. So the 1-1 here. Williams going to lay down the bunt. The throw to first is in time to get her out, so the sacrifice works. And we saw great speed on the play from Williams. That was actually a really well fielded bunt that turned to a near photo finish at first base.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, though, clearly they're happy to get Sydney Leger over to third base. And for the Spartans, the good news is that there's 2 out. So obviously concerned with Leger representing the game's first run if they can bring her across, but 1 out, and it's no harm, no foul.
So that one's going to be a ball taken high. And now at the plate for the Sharks is Ali Janowick. Janowick so far is going to be put into a little bit of a high leverage situation. 2 outs, a runner on third. And for Miner in the circle, 1 out away, although now down 2-0 in the count with 2 opening balls. So good eye and good discipline to open up the at-bat from Janowick.
Janowick hitting .320 this season.
And that is going to be taken inside for ball 3. So a little bit surprising to see Corinne Miner go down 3-0 in the count here, but against a dangerous hitter, potentially not wanting to give a ball that's too hittable with the runner on third.
Janowick has drawn 8 walks this season, so clearly in that cleanup spot. She's someone that finds a way to get on base, and they want to keep this inning alive, obviously, due to the Sharks.
8 walks and 7 strikeouts, so getting on base more than striking out, but there's a whiff right there on the 3-1. So now full count with a runner on third. A chance for Miner to get out of the jam, and a chance for Janowick to try to put the Sharks up. The payoff pitch. There's going to be a drive to left field. Fanton tracking it down. It's going to be dropping foul.
A collective sigh from the Spartans fans in the crowd as they watch that ball pop out of her glove, and all of a sudden their best friend in the park is the home plate umpire. And as a result, Janowick stays alive here, full count.
So now the 3-2 for the Spartans. There's going to be a drive to left field. Fanton gets on it this time and will pull it in to retire the side. 1 runner advanced on an error and got to third, but wasn't able to score. So the Spartans will now get to the bat at the bottom of the first inning. Still 0-0. So we are back for the bottom of the first inning between the Tampa Spartans and Nova Southeastern Sharks. In the circle for the Sharks is Emily Hess, and Fanton leads off for the Spartans.
Interesting that Hess looked like she was looking over to her dugout for what maybe Julie Lemaire wants to do to start this game, and it seemed like she disagreed before she even stepped on the rubber. Be something to keep our eye on. She does have the wristband and, of course, is looking straight ahead at her catcher, which is Madison Fine. We'll watch the communication as the game unfolds here. See her looking over to the dugout there.
So far, 2-0 in the count here. A good eye from Fanton. I wonder maybe if the dugout will say, hey, let's try to go a little more aggressive here. And that one is going to be a strike. Fanton tried to lay down a bunt but missed right there, so now it's a 2-1 count.
Yeah, I was going to say, as much as Hess might be trying to get into the head of Fanton, I think she tried to match the psychological game and say, oh, I'm going to show you a bunt all of a sudden.
Yep, and I think that could have worked. However, that was taken outside corner and just in the zone. So good job to recover in the circle from the 2-0 count to get it to 2-2. A chance to get the first out right here. Fanton is going to line it to second, but it's an easily groundable ball off the hop, and there will be one away for the Spartans. And that was a good play right there by Haley Hendricks. Got the ball calmly, cleanly, threw it to first. With one out in the bottom of the first, we thank you for tuning in on the Sunshine State Conference Network. We're on Tampa Spartans TV, whether you're a Nova fan tuning in for the road series or a Tampa fan watching the Spartans at home. We thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday evening and from the commentary booth. And I'm pretty sure you can see a little bit on stream. There's a beautiful sunset going on, and always in Florida you have a beautiful sunset, which is always good. Good, you can just go outside and see the sun setting. Get to see the gold and red in the sky, somewhat matching Tampa's uniforms for a few of the sports. But the 2-0 count here. Once again, Spartans able to get ahead in the count, and time will be called.
Steph Ballmer, by the way, hitting 184 this season, has played all 16 of UT's games. She has 2 doubles, 2 RBI, 9 for 49 hitting.
Chance to get on base there, but takes the 3-0 pitch. And now it's going to be 3-1 as it is in the zone.
And the dangerous Mariah Galehouse waiting in the on-deck circle.
What you don't want to do is put a runner on for Galehouse. And that's going to be a whiff. 3-2, a full count now. Great job from Hess to be able to get Ballmer to swing early. Hess has gone down early in the counts, but has been able to recover very well in the circle. And now with the payoff pitch, a chance to try to get a second out right away. That's going to be a line drive to center field, but not going to go too far. So that'll be the second out. Sydney Legere is able to get right on it.
Now Ballmer gave that one a pretty good ride. And Spartans really need to get some balls in play here early and give themselves some confidence. They saw the Sharks get a runner all the way to third in the top of the first, and it's going to be the little victories, things like getting runners on base and eventually getting somebody across. As I always say, you don't have to win it with one swing of the bat when it's only the first or the second or the third inning. Just chip away, get some base hits, get some runners on, work on converting some of those.
And if you need someone to generate some offense, Galehouse is always a player who is able to do that. I've quoted her before saying she's almost the team's Ohtani, with great outfield play, good on the mound work, and also great in the batter's box. I mean, when you have someone who can play in the field, in the circle, and in the batter's box, that's always a great player that you can just comfortably rely on. You see that with Galehouse, and you also see that with Kern Minor. So, especially being able to hit well as well. But now down 0-2 in the count, we could see Emily Hess get out of this inning with no damage allowed at all. That is going to be a line drive up the middle, and it will be a base hit. Gallhouse stays at 1.
Interesting, too, because from where we are, we can see that pitch was not over the plate. And so it was a little bit of a reach for Gallhouse, but she made great contact and just found the seam in the infield. And as you just mentioned, someone who's going to get on base, and now all of a sudden that sets up nicely for Corinne Miner, who's the cleanup hitter. And this is the momentum that I'm talking about, that the Spartans need and want to build for themselves.
At Corinne Miner, you normally don't expect a pitcher to be hitting in cleanup, but Miner isn't just a cleanup hitter. Miner's one of the best hitters on the team. As we see the Sharks, they've got a designated hitter for the pitcher. Tampa doesn't need it. They're going to let Miner at bat, and it feels like that every single time Miner gets up to the bat, she's really able to create some run support for herself. And with a runner on first, there's a good chance, although it would take a pretty big outfield hit to drive it home, but as long as Miner can keep the inning alive, there will be hope for the Spartans, and already ahead 2-0 in the count.
She and Gallhouse both have all the tools that you mentioned, and so it's not unusual to see them hitting in the 3 and 4 positions, where it's very routine for Leslie Cantor to put her lineup together that way, with Gallhouse hitting third, with Corinne Miner hitting fourth, and that's whether they're pitching, it's whether Gallhouse is playing in the outfield, it's whether Corinne Miner is playing over at third, and they become very different players when they step into that batter's box, as we're seeing here with what they're creating. Gallhouse now on second, and Miner working this 2-1 count.
So 2-1 here for Miner. That is going to be a passed ball that will send Gallhouse to third. And what we were saying before is it would take a lot of work to get Gallhouse home. Well, now she's already on third. And now a chance, as long as there's a ball in play that leads to a hit, certainly will bring Gallhouse home. No need to worry about checking up for any fly ball with 2 outs. And with a 3-1 count here, a dangerous situation in the circle for Hess. That one's going to be taken outside, so they'll elect to walk Corinne Miner, and I think that's probably the smart move, given that Miner is maybe the Spartans' strongest hitter. With 2 outs, you get a slightly more favorable matchup against Alexa Russo, but Russo is still a dangerous hitter.
I'll tell you, on ball 3, the pass ball, from up here, it looked like it made contact. I thought it was a hit by pitch. Now, obviously, the home plate umpire has a front row seat. Corinne Miner did not turn to look at him whatsoever and say that she had gotten hit. But regardless, it works out for the Spartans nonetheless, because Gallhouse did advance to third, and now with ball 4, you get Miner on first, and all of a sudden things are getting a little dicey if you're the Sharks.
Russo on deck. It's Chevalier up now. And speaking of strong catchers, Chevalier has had a great season behind the plate. Not a lot of pass balls or wild pitches. And it was a really close play off the stolen base conceded in the first inning. She got the throw nearly in time, but just a little bit too fast in the base path.
And Lexi's also having herself a nice little season in the batter's box. She's hitting .318. And so she's, just like we've talking about with Gallhouse and Miner, with not just being one-dimensional, strong defensive play from Chevalier, and speaking with her bat as well.
The 2-0 to Chevalier, that is going to be taken inside, and that will be ball 3. A chance for 2 walks in a row here. And maybe a little bit more pressure in the circle here. Hess was able to get 2 quick outs, but all of a sudden now finds runners at the corners. That one's going to be taken down the middle, 3-1.
Yeah, that's always an interesting situation there, because the temptation is, I'm going to swing. The worst that happens is it's a miss, and it's 3-1. But part of that is also the excitement of, I can drive in my teammate from third base, and that's where you have to be careful so you don't put a ball in play that all of a sudden results in a fielder's choice. And Chevalier stays alive there with the foul ball to bring the count to 3-2.
So good job by Hess to fight back from the circle. 3-2 count. Runners at the corners, 2 outs. The Spartans will want to score here. The Sharks will want to prevent it from happening. It all comes down to the payoff pitch. That is going to be fouled away once again. And before, I think a little bit of a weakness for the Spartans was not bringing the pitch count all the way up so far, and entering this at-bat, which has already gone on for quite a few pitches. Hess has already put up 20 pitches in the first inning, so a good job to stay alive. There's going to be a pop fly, the first base personal. Go and get it, track it down. Getting out of a really tough jam there. The Spartans able to get 2 runners, one off a hit, one off a walk, but they're both stranded. And exiting the first inning, it is still a tied 0-0 ball game. We will see you in just a minute, and thank you for tuning in on Tampa Spartans TV and the Sunshine State Conference Network. And we are back, top of the second inning. It was an eventful first inning with runners getting to third in both the top and bottom half, but neither were able to score. Both were stranded. And taking the first pitch outside will be Madison Fine, as Fine will lead off the inning for the Sharks. That is going to be a pop fly, and a great job to track it down by Siegel. Siegel playing at third and making a good play to retire the first batter.
Interesting, Taylor, in a case like this where you've got 2 teams that are about to play each other 3 times in less than 24 hours, you know, there's a feeling out process and starting to get to look at each other face to face instead of on video. And I feel as though both teams in the first inning were a little bit more aggressive than we would normally see in that kind of feeling out first inning of the first game of 3. And it's going to be interesting to see as this game unfolds. Does that mean that they're going to let their hair down even more and we're going to see even more offense? Or is it now that we've started to see a few things, we'll tighten up and this will be a defensive gym?
And that is the question, Bruce, because always you generally see a quiet first inning with the feeling out process, and usually have the 1 and 2 spot as speedier players as the general lineup sort of building metrics. However, it is when you get to the second inning, you usually start to see the 4, 5, and 6 batters come in who can really generate that offense. Although we saw for Tampa the 4, 5, and 6, or 3, 4, and 5 get up and not be able to score here. I wonder if it'll be the same for the Sharks. Now a 2-1 count here to the designated player. That's going to be a drive to center field, but it's going to be routinely tracked down by Gallhouse. So Morris isn't going to be able to do anything here, and 2 outs. And a quick start in the circle from Kern Miner.
That looked like a routine fly ball, but I'll tell you what, for Mariah Gallhouse, that was one of those, is this thing about to drop on me? So she made sure that she hustled right away and made it look routine, even though we can tell from the way that the ball took off from the bat from our vantage point, that thing had eyes and could have easily dropped in. So good awareness by Mariah Gallhouse. You can tell that she's focused, she's in the game. We saw that offensively, and now we see her defense as well.
So the 1-0 here. So the second pitch will be taken, this time for a strike. So Haley Hendricks, who made a solid play at second base in the first inning.
You know, there's something to be said for an error in judgment, which is what that would have been if she hadn't come in time to make that catch, versus just the fielding error that Alexa Russo committed in the first inning, where that's just mechanics. And so in Gallhouse's case, it's great that she made that catch so routinely, because you don't want back-to-back innings where all of a sudden your team is committing errors and you say, uh-oh, which Tampa team is going to show up tonight? Are we going to have our act together, or are we going to be bobbling balls?
And whenever there's an error, it's just demoralizing for the pitcher, too, because they really put the team in a position where it's not a super difficult play, but at the end, there still is now a runner on base they have to deal with. The 3-1 taken for strike 2. It's minor, even though the count had been worked to 3-1. A good job to keep it alive in the circle, and once again, a full count. A payoff pitch here to Hendricks. That's going to be fouled away, so we'll go again. And yeah, looking back at the error in the first inning for Russo, Russo was able to track it down, but just misjudged the bounce, and those can be really hard when you have a bouncing ball in the infield. You don't know if it's going to drop a little bit lower or jump a little higher, and I think missed it by just a couple inches. It only rolled a little bit into the outfield, as there will be a pop fly tracking it down. Here is Palmer, and the side is retired. A 1-2-3 inning for the Spartans, and they will now try to generate some offense of their own, entering the bottom of the second. And we are back now, bottom of the second. The Spartans had a quick 1-2-3 top half, and now as they're on offense, will hope to generate some of their own. But Emily Hess on the circle will not want that to happen. The first pitch to Russo is going to be taken inside for ball 1.
And Alexa Russo is hitting .279 this season, and 3 doubles is what jumps out at me. She's 12 for 43 on the season.
And there's going to be a line drive by Russo that had some power to it, but it was basically in the same spot that Legere is, meaning that Legere, on what was definitely a ball with some power, a little bit of good velo, and a chance to maybe hit the gap, turned into just a pretty routine line drive and a good play and reaction to make sure it didn't drop.
Yeah, exactly. The Spartans had a ball just like that back in the first inning that was well struck. It resulted in an out, but that's when I started talking about them putting the bat on the ball. And so you see that they're a little bit more active in the early going so far in this game offensively, which Leslie Cantor has to be optimistic about.
And so far, the Sharks haven't been able to get a strikeout yet, which is also a good sign for putting balls into play and generating offense. That one's almost going to hit Jansen there.
Emily
as
Jansen
goes a little
is
too inside for
hitting .256 this season and has a triple to her credit. And they're just looking to get her on base right now in any way that she can.
And trying to get on base here. That is going to drop foul. Great reactions there from Hendricks to try to chase it down, but just a few steps behind it. So the count will drop to 1-2 here. And so far, Jansen has been solid at the plate, and 2.5 average is always pretty good to have, but Jansen's main strength has come playing first, being able to make some good plays and good grabs to help secure outs there. There's going to be a ground ball down the third base line. It was a good effort there from Williams, but not able to get a glove on it. So Tampa will be able to get a runner on with 1 out. And Abby Siegel now comes up for the Spartans.
Yeah, again, you have to be happy with the way the bats are active for Tampa tonight. I know this is a broadcaster's curse, but no strikeouts yet, so they're not standing around looking at pitches all game long. And to already have a runner on base as they did in the first with some activity, we saw someone get all the way to third. This is encouraging for the home team in the early going.
As you mentioned with the commentator's curse, it's a shame that Siegel will probably strike out here with that in mind, although only down 1-0-1 in the count. We saw Siegel make a few decent plays so far this season and in the last inning as well. It's going to be a good eye for Siegel. 1-1. So unlike her counterpart, Curran Minor in the circle, Hess hasn't been able to get a 2-out start for the first two batters, conceding the hit most recently. So 1 on, 1-1 count, 1 out. That count's going to jump to 2-1 here, as that pitch also goes a little bit inside.
Abigail Siegel has played in 9 of UT's 16 games this season, hitting .231. Good opportunity for her here.
And that one's going to be taken for strike 2. So a chance to get the second out and a little bit of a recovery here from Hess in the circle. Siegel not wanting to let this opportunity go to waste.
The home plate umpire, Brian Serafin, with that delayed call, had us all kind of on the edge of our seat, so to speak.
And was going to hit it opposite field to get on base with a good single. Just splits the second and first base players.
And let me go down and thank Abigail Siegel for not striking out.
Yeah. So the commentator's curse didn't strike us just yet, as Siegel was able to hit a great ball there, splits the defense, and they were playing pretty close, and that was not a lot of distance between the two infielders for the ball to get through, but it still did. So now runners on first and second with 1 out. That one's going to be taken for strike 1. A little bit delayed on the calls here, but still a chance now for Perkins with 2 runners on, 1 in scoring position.
Gotta love the season that Avery Perkins is having so far. 344. Has a couple of doubles, has a triple, and 3 RBI.
So Perkins is definitely the batter you want in this situation with 2 runners on and only 1 out. So a little bit less pressure than a standard 2-out stakes that you might find runners in scoring position in. It just adds to the pressure for Hess in the circle. And going to reach on an outside one. It's going to get down. And now we'll bring the bases loaded as the top of the order comes back up.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Exactly. The number 9 hitter, you got the bases loaded, and it, in a roundabout way, only gets worse for Nova Southeastern because now you're right back to the top of the Tampa order. So is the pressure on the pitcher or is the pressure on Lauren Fanton? As you mentioned, there only being 1 out and saying there's the bases loaded. We got to convert at least 1.
So that would be the pressure for the Spartans. And yeah, on that pitch there, it was well outside, but still a great reach from Perkins to be able to not just get contact, get a nice little mix. That was a line drive that just was able to soar over the infield and just drop in the outfield for an easy single. Ball 1 will be taken outside. Fanton has done well this season, and now has a chance with bases loaded to really get something going. That one's taken for ball 2. So now the 2-0 here. The Spartans have been known to sometimes squander positions with runners in scoring position, but they don't want that here, and already leading in the count is a good sign. That'll be taken outside for ball 3. Strike 1, actually. From up here, it looked a little outside, although we don't have the world's greatest view. It's a little skewed to the right, so those pitches that are a little bit outside and to the left are a little bit harder to read. So the 2-1 count here for Fanton. Fanton is going to get under that one. And the second out will be recorded here, as it was a good play by Burke to track it down.
Steph Ballmer, who's 0 for 1 in this game, grounded out in the first inning.
Ballmer's going to have a tough task here with 2 outs and the bases loaded. A lot of pressure to try to get something going. For Hess, that pressure is still on her, but in the circle, you can take a tiny breath as you were already able to get Ballmer out before, and Ballmer isn't as dangerous as, say, the batters up deck, Gallhouse and Minor later down. So the 1-0. That's going to be taken for strike 1.
And of course, as we talk about so often, the other thing that comes into play here is the pitch count. And so it's going to be interesting to see if the Spartans can continue to go deep like this, if eventually this will take its toll on Hess, and then how does that affect the pitching plans that head coach Julie Lemaire has for tomorrow?
That one cuts inside, barely missing Ballmer. And if that had hit Ballmer, it would have sent a runner in to score. And now it's a 2-1 count, and exactly that. Any chance to drive up a pitch count is good. We don't know whether the Sharks use Hess in the circle the same way that Minor is used, where Minor is basically just given free reins to go for the entire game. That one's fouled away for strike 2. So 2's all around. Ballmer being number 2 at the plate. More than 2 runners on, but 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. And this will be a high pressure pitch right here.
The Spartans already have 4 hits in this game, and the last thing they want to do is end up with a lopsided number in the left on base column, especially after we saw in the first inning not being able to convert, and as you mentioned with the bases loaded here.
You can hear the dugouts get a little loud. The 2-2. That is going to be popped behind Ballmer, able to stay alive.
Yeah, I always like to think that you're required by softball law to foul off a good handful of pitches in a count like this just to really keep things interesting.
And already entering the at-bat, Hess had 43 pitches. Depending on how long Ballmer can extend it, we could see that number maybe reach 50. That is going to be taken for strike 3. And that could have been inside, but it was borderline. The tie goes to the pitcher in that case, and the side is retired. Hess gets out of the jam with the bases loaded. So the second inning is done and dusted, still 0-0. The Sharks will have a chance to get right back to work. We are back at the top of the third inning. Tampa was able to load the bases, but Hess stayed calm in the circle, retired inside with the Spartans' first strikeout of the game. And now back in the circle will be Kern Minor, who's had a very solid start, and that will be fouled away. So Burke down 0-1. Got some good contact there, but it's a little bit late, or a little bit early, I think. Sent that foul.
Samantha Burke hitting .273 this season for Nova Southeastern. And after all the activity that we just saw offensively from UT, you kind of feel like you must be back around in the Nova Southeastern order, but in fact, she's quote-unquote just the number 8 hitter, so her first time through the lineup tonight.
And quote-unquote, we can always say that, oh, someone's a number 8 hitter, someone's a number 9 hitter, but Tampa was able to load the bases with primarily their 7, 8, and 9 hitters late in the second inning. So you can never underestimate the impact of anyone, anywhere in the order. Minor able to get the count to 2-2 here after another foul ball. Minor only 32 pitches so far, so actually not having terribly too high workload from the circle so far. That one's going to be taken inside. It just ran, I think, a little bit away. Now full count here. No one on. Chance to start off the inning well for the Sharks. Going to be popped. Will it stay fair? No, because it doesn't even matter if that was fair in that play. Fanton tracks it down, and there's one away.
And good hustle there by Lauren Fanton, even though it was going foul. And that's what's going to keep the pitch count down for Minor and keep the Spartans rolling through this Nova Southeastern lineup as the number 9 hitter, Alexis Smith, comes in to hit here in the top of the third. First pitch to her. Let's see, taken for ball one. And Alexis Smith is hitting .240 this season. As the next one is strike one.
So 1-1 right here. That one's going to be a well-placed bunt, and that will let Williams reach first. I apologize, that was Alexis Smith. We saw Williams with great speed on her bunt attempt in the first inning. Smith able to actually convert on the bunt here and get on base. First hit for the Sharks.
Yeah, she did it all perfectly. Laid down the bunt right where she wanted it, had tremendous speed, and as a result, the Sharks get themselves a base runner here with only one out in the top of the third.
That one will be fouled away.
Corinne Minor, I think they're waiting for a supply of a few more softballs.
We've had quite a few fouls so far, so not surprised they've already had to go into the stash of reserves. But the 0-1 here, as Sydney Legere is able to get back up. The 0-1, and that will be fouled away.
Legere, we saw lead off the game reaching on an error by Alexa Russo.
Legere will hope to try to advance, whether it's on an error or a hit. A walk looks a little unlikely, but still plenty of time. The 0-2 count here with one away. That one's going to be taken outside for ball one. And a good eye there by Legere to not get fooled. The 1-2. And that is nearly caught by Minor, but it's a great play, and the side will be retired. It's a beautifully worked double play. A line drive straight to Minor. Minor couldn't get it, but you know who could? Balmer, who reacted brilliantly to then pick it up. And as you saw, Smith thought that that was going to drop for at least a base hit. You have to run when there's a ball in the infield like that. And when Balmer caught it, there was no chance that she could get back to first. So off a little bit of chaos in the infield, Tampa gets a nice double play. And we will now go to the bottom of the third inning, a chance for the Spartans to get back on offense. And we are back for the bottom of the third. The sunset, I think, is come and gone, so we are now entering the darker night stage with the lights on. The beautiful Friday night here at the Moley Family Stadium. Tampa was just able to get out of a jam. And again, we want to thank you for tuning in on the Sunshine State Conference Network at Tampa Spartans TV. The first pitch will be fouled away. Just too much to the left. Gallhouse up again to lead off the order.
One of the great things about the sport of softball is you can very quickly forget what happened in the last inning because you go out and play defense, you come back up to bat. You can forget that you stranded the bases loaded. All of a sudden you play defensively and you give your team a whole new shot in the arm of adrenaline from that double play that we saw to end the Sharks batting in the top of the third. And so now the Spartans come to the plate excited instead of dwelling on what they didn't do in the bottom of the second. And it just feels, Taylor, like one of those games where things are really starting to break Tampa's way. You and I have talked in the past about just needing one lucky bounce. And it's not necessarily lucky bounces, but it just seems like this game is starting to tilt the way that the Spartans needed to.
Yeah, I mean, and it looked like almost it had tilted that way fully to allow them to get them to score, but straining the bases loaded can be an absolute mood killer. But as you said as well, making a great defensive play can sometimes erase that mistake. Gallhouse, a good eye there to draw it now to a 2-2 count. Has had the 2-0-2 lead in the circle, but the two pitches to try to get Gallhouse to be baited didn't work right here. So now a 2-2 to Gallhouse, who already had a great hit up the middle early. That one's going to be fouled away, and it will land in the home bullpen. So no possible play there. And stays alive here. Entering the bottom of the third, has his 49 pitches. So already having a little bit of work in the circle. I know Hess will want to try to retire Tampa cleanly, but that could be easier said than done. The 2-2 here is going to be taken inside. And actually, it's a hit by pitch. So, I think a little bit of an obstructed view up here with the catcher and umpire with a little bit of the right bias from the booth, but Gallhouse looks okay, as I think that grazed her leg or hit her in the leg. And now
I think it might have bounced off her foot, and the bottom line is that, again, she gets on base, and that's what they want when they've got the number 4 hitter coming up, Corinne Minor.
And as long as the runner can get on base for Minor, that's what's good. There's a bunt that's going to be just turned the opposite way. The hope there, I think, was to try to get Gallhouse to second. Didn't work as well that time around. It's now 0-1 right here. The 0-1, we'll have to see if Gallhouse gets in motion. Gallhouse had stolen a base in the first inning. It's going to drop a sacrifice, but it just rolls foul, so now 0-2.
Smart coaching here by Leslie Cantor, showing bunt from the number 4 hitter and trying to get Nova Southeastern guessing, wondering if Corinne is going to stick with that or not. And now with an 0-2, see what she calls here for her cleanup hitter, again with that runner being over at first.
It's now the 0-2 on Minor. That is going to be taken. Now be ball 1. And a good job there at the catcher position by Fine to not let it get past her. It looked like it had the potential to, as it awkwardly landed on the ground, but prevents the pass ball that would have surely advanced Gallhouse to second. The 1-2 right here. And that is going to be a drive from Minor. It's going deep, but should be corralled at left. And it won't. It'll be landing at the wall. And because Gallhouse had to stay at first, you have to worry about being caught out to dry on a double play. She's only able to get to second, but that is just an unfortunate misplay there by Smith in left field, not able to corral it next to the wall.
And Corinne Minor, I'm holding my hands about a foot apart. Corinne Minor was about that far from making it 4 consecutive games with a home run. The series last weekend, she had 1 home run in each of the 3 games that UT played. And boy, I thought, Taylor, that we were about to see 4 in a row there.
I did too, and honestly, there's still some optimism for any further at-bats Minor could get. And yeah, it was a great weekend for Minor last time out. 3 home runs in 3 games, and now is able to advance off a well-hit single. This time the sacrifice will work. And now with 1 out, oh, it's going to be a wild throw. Tampa will take a 1-run lead. And just like we said, a lucky ball is all the Spartans need. A routine bunt that's just a misplayed throw to first. Lands in the outfield, and Gallhouse says, hey, I'll take the free base, thank you very much. And now with no outs, the sacrifice turns into an RBI off the air. Runners at the corners now as Russo will step up.
Yeah, and this is not a knock against Lexi Chevalier. It just was a routine play, and I think Lexi just thought, okay, I've done my job, and they're going to get me out at first. All of a sudden, you see the ball overthrown like that, and Lexi's thrilled that there she is, still alive, and that her team has now scored the game's first run.
And so the bunt had worked out well for Tampa right there. First pitch is going to be taken for strike one. And yeah, Alexis Chevalier, not expected to do much in the at-bat, just get the runners with one out to scoring positions. But no, already is able to give Tampa a little bit of a lead. And Russo has a chance to keep it going.
Yeah, like I said, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that as a knock. This is what my job is, and it looks like I've done it cleanly, and it looks like I'm going to get thrown out at first, and then the ball gets away, and you say, bonus.
Exactly. Where you take one for the team, but in the end, you don't get knocked down for good. Now, an 0-2 count for Russo. And always after conceding a run, especially off a error like that, there's all the pressure in the circle for Hess, but trying to respond to it well, that's going to be taken high.
Yeah, and the other part of it, Taylor, that's somewhat backbreaking is you go from potentially at least getting that out at first to now you've got runners at the corners, a run has already crossed the plate, and there's still nobody out. So the Sharks are very much playing from behind at this point, and I don't just mean by the 1-0 score.
And that one will be fouled away. Ironically enough, that one is fouled behind by Russo. But yeah, the Sharks have been on the wrong foot to start so far, including 2 errors that have given Tampa some success. And now the 1-2 here will keep the pressure on. Russo hoping to continue the offense. Russo will foul it away once again. Count stays 1-2.
Yeah, they'll look back at this inning, the Sharks, and point to a couple of miscues. Obviously, the play that we saw there was Chevalier at first base, and then the left fielder, Smith, going back and not making the catch, bobbling that.
And that one's going to be taken. A few woos from the crowd as that was pretty close, but called the ball. And now 2-2 count.
This is where if you're the Spartans, you know, they've got the door open, and now they just have to bust it down.
It's like on Halloween, they can only say no if you ring the door that many times. There's going to be a pop fly to short, and so now there will be 1 away here at the bottom of the third. And a good job there by Burke to track it down.
And we'll see Emily Jansen, who singled in her first at-bat in the second inning.
Jansen, as you mentioned already, 1 for 1 with the hit. Will want to get another one here. That would definitely help Tampa and put them up. Stealing second there will be Chevalier, as there was a bunt to try to cause a little bit of more chaos on the base path. And as we see, Fine just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any shenanigans for trying to steal home when Fine was going to then try to pick off Chevalier at second. The 0-1 after the missed bunt. That is going to be taken for strike 2.
Good job by Chevalier just being aware, and obviously she had the sign, but you don't know when the Sharks are going to catch the steal attempt at the last minute and adjust accordingly, and so Chevalier had her eyes on the prize, able to take second successfully.
So that is going to be grounded to second. The throw home, not in time. So the fielder's choice not able to get the out. Tampa will now lead 2-0.
Well, I was waiting for home plate umpire Brian Serafin to make the call, but I was waiting for him to say that Corinne Miner was out. So I'm a little surprised to see him call that safe, and I'm a little bit surprised, Taylor, that we're not seeing a little bit of an argument from Coach Julie Lemaire on the Nova Southeastern side to challenge the umpire. Not that he's going to overturn his decision, but from up here, that, and again, we keep talking about our vantage point, but I did think that they did get the throw in time, and Corinne Miner is obviously able to beat the tag just in time.
And it's always not just the throw, it's always beating the tag. And yeah, the throw is definitely well in time. The tag just likely wasn't. Here's the throw to second. It's going to be a good play and smart reaction there by Hendricks to run forward and catch the ball in momentum just to make sure that Chevalier couldn't sneak home off the pickoff attempt from the steal. But the steal still works, so it brings Jansen to second.
Now I have to thank Leslie Cantor for making me look good, because I said the Spartans had the door open and they just have to bust in now, and you see that stolen base and they're saying, hey, 2-0, and we've only got 1 out. let's really turn up the heat on the Sharks and see how much more damage we could do this half inning.
That one is taken a tad high for ball one. And with the heat rising, the pressure still mounting in the circle, Hess has done a good job to try to limit errors on her end. But there's been chaos in the base paths alongside 2 errors that have been the cause of the 2 runs so far. So none of the runs scored had been really Hess's fault. So that hurts as well to demoralize a pitcher, but a chance with 1 out to try to get a second right here, a 1-2 count.
Siegel's 1 for 1 in this game and stays alive there.
And, the umpire has gotten hit off that foul ball. I think he had gotten tagged one time before in the umpire mask, as it had fallen off before. So yeah, that foul one just barely got enough contact on the ball to send it backward. But unfortunately for our home plate umpire, it just got sent backward in the right way, where you're lucky that you do have the umpire's mask in that situation.
Well, and Peter DeRosa, the other umpire, came in to check on his partner and kind of gave him a look like, I've been there before.
It's all part of the job description. Make calls and sometimes get struck with foul balls as the 1-2 is fouled away. So once again, keeping it alive is Siegel. And we had seen that Siegel was able to get on with a hit in her first at-bat. And a hit here with runners in second and third would be huge for the Spartans to bust down the door and keep the damage coming. 1-2 here. That is taken for strike 3. You hear the roar from the Nova fans. So Hess able to recover right here. And now is a chance to get out of the jam. But you always have to worry when trying to face a left-handed hitter. And now stepping up to the plate is Perkins, who is 1 of 1 so far.
Can't say enough about the great turnout tonight. Obviously, we mentioned there's a lot of Nova Southeastern fans, but a lot of Spartans fans here. It's just so wonderful to look out of our press box and see the stands full here on this great Friday night. Great softball game here so far between the Spartans and the Sharks, who have come up from Fort Lauderdale, Nova Southeastern University.
That one is going to be fouled away for 1-1. And yeah, just so many fans out here, and I really hope a lot of them return for tomorrow's doubleheader, which will again feature the Nova Southeastern Sharks and Tampa Spartans to finish up games 2 and 3 of the weekend series.
We obviously will have that doubleheader for you tomorrow. The first game starts at 12 noon.
And so make sure you tune in again on Tampa Spartans TV on the Sunshine State Conference Network then to catch all the action for what will be a long, fun Sunday afternoon. And if this game tonight has any indication of how the series will go, it should be pretty exciting for everyone involved. There's a swing and a miss on a pretty far outside pitch, so Hess able to get 2 strikeouts in a row from the circle to retire the side. But Tampa was able to get the damage despite stranding 2. They lead 2-0 entering the 4th inning. So we are back. It was a very intense bottom of the third inning with multiple errors and multiple hits, and Tampa was able to start to get on the scoreboard. They lead 2-0 here. Nova Southeastern are looking to get right back into the game. Curran Minor still in the circle, not wanting to let any of that happen. There's a pitch down the middle for strike one.
Curran Minor starts this inning having thrown 43 pitches through the first 3 innings, so approximately 14 per inning. And she's only allowed 1 hit. 2-0 Spartans lead here in the top of the 4th.
Yeah, and only 2 runners have reached. One, of course, on that error we saw in the first, and 1 on a hit. But apart from that, Minor has kept the damage to an absolute minimum. And that hit actually came off a very well-placed bunt and didn't really amount to anything else. And now, with a 1-2 count, Minor can try to get the first out away here in the top of the 4th. Taken just outside and a little bit high.
That's the right fielder, Riley Langwell, and she struck out looking back in the first. And if she's not careful, she's one Curran Minor strike away from another out by way of strikeout, although she stays alive by fouling that one way down the left field line.
Had some good power on that foul ball, but just sends it a little bit too far left. And now you can see the sun is completely gone. It is now nighttime, the lights shining bright down on the field at the Moley Family Stadium. With the 2-2 right here. That's going to be grounded and easily fielded there by Curran Minor. And we can see the way that Minor plays in the infield with a great reach there and a very easy throw to turn what actually was a little bit of a dangerous hop into a routine out. So now 1 away, as that will bring up Tia Williams, who was able to reach on error in the first inning. Actually, Tia Williams had a fielder's choice in the first inning. It had been Legere who'd gotten on error early on. Takes the 0-1 pitch. Strike 1 there. This one's going to be taken as well for strike 2. So Minor already ahead in the count with 1 out.
I mentioned at the beginning of our broadcast that Nova Southeastern comes in with a 10-7 1-loss record and got themselves a nice little 4-game winning streak going right now.
Yeah, with that 4-game winning streak, I know the Sharks won't want it to end here, but so far they are down 2-0 and have lacked a little bit of offense. There's going to be a pop fly that is an easy play right there by Russo. Siegel. The number 23 almost had me confused for number 33 there. And we've already seen Siegel make a few solid plays from third base, and there is able to retire the second batter of the inning. The 0-0 here. One's going to be taken for ball 1.
It's not too different from an out that I commented on that Mariah Galhouse contributed with a catch in center field. Those little plays that look so harmless, where Siegel just made the catch in foul territory, those are the plays that keep the game moving along and add up outs and get Tampa moving quicker towards ending this inning, getting back up to hit. And before you know it, all of a sudden the game starts getting away from you if you're the Sharks. So as routine as those are, they're just as meaningful as a strikeout.
Yeah, and routine doesn't always mean meaningless and doesn't always mean not good in a way, because, again, they do help keep momentum for any team that's winning. It can help to try to build momentum for a team that's losing. And that's just what happens when you put the ball in play. Sometimes there will be a play that just looks a little bit easier. The 1-2 right there will be taken high. So a good job there for Janowick to stay alive. Looking over to the right, we see some action in the Nova Southeastern bullpen. Could be seeing a pitching change soon. There's going to be a line drive that's going to just, again, drift foul to the left. So now, 2s all around. Number 22 at the plate. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Tampa leading 2-0, and on the mound, in the circle, Kern Miner, number 22, as well. Strike 3, and Miner will go 1-2-3 once again. We hear the Yankees whistle. And pitching like an absolute ace again is Kern Miner with another 1-2-3 inning. Solid work. Nova is retired. Tampa will be back up to bat to see if they can continue that momentum they've had. We'll be right back on the Sunshine State Conference Network. So we are past the halfway point. Regardless, if we don't go to extra innings, entering the bottom of the fourth, the Spartans still lead 2-0, and Kern Miner just had a very, very nice 1-2-3 inning. And that is going to be the hope for the Sharks to try to do the same. Fanton takes the first pitch for an 0-1, and Hess will still be on the mound, or in the circle. But we saw in the bullpen some action, warming up, potentially getting ready to relieve Hess if needed. That one's going to be taken for strike 2, and I don't think there's going to be that much urgency with a good start like that from Hess in the circle to try to get the fourth underway.
Emily Hess, however, came into this inning with a pitch count of 77 already through just 3 innings. And we've seen Kern Miner really find her groove and very economical with her pitches as the game has gone along. So the Sharks really trying to stay alive here, trailing only by 2, but the longer that this game continues the way it's gone is that much quicker that it's going to feel like it's slipping out of reach for them.
So there's going to be a drive from Fanton to center, and that was one of the ones you had mentioned before. It's a little bit hard to read as it goes down. Is it going to drop quickly? And it caused Leger to have to take a little bit of a cut inside as it took a path that I don't think she expected, but still not too difficult for her. And she'll put the first out away right here. And yeah, exactly, especially as the game keeps going on. A 2-run deficit just looks harder and harder when you're entering the 6th and 7th innings. But so far in the 4th, and what will soon to be top of the 5th, there's not that much pressure. That one will be taken for strike 1.
As well as UT has played so far in this game, you do have to look at those 7 runners that they've left on base and then look at the scoreboard and say, we could be a lot better than 2-0 at this point and need to start converting those people when we're getting runners, especially in scoring position.
So Ballmer there misses for strike 2 on a whiff. Got fooled by the riser, and a chance now in the circle for Hess to try to get another strikeout to get a second out right here. That one's going to be taken inside for ball 1.
That looked pretty close. The way that she leaned back, I don't blame her because it looked like it was in danger of seeing another hit by pitch.
And I've noticed as well that for Hess, a lot of her pitches do tend to go a little bit to the left. So for righties, they've occasionally had to dive out of the way. And it also leaves the opportunity for a hit by pitch, like we did see earlier with Gallhouse. And that hit by pitch was allowed Gallhouse to go all the way around the bases and score. So now the 1-2 here after the foul ball. That one is going to be fouled again. and still a 1-2 count.
You can kind of tell how a game is going when it's only the bottom of the fourth, and this is already Steph Ballmer's third plate appearance. Conversely, Nova Southeastern, some of their players just making their second time through the lineup. And that's the way this game looks like it's unfolding, as you mentioned, with Hess having some problems in the circle, albeit that strikeout there, which is going to give her a little bit of a shot in the arm, but still a lot of work to do against this potent Tampa offense.
So yeah, no problem in that at bat, as Hess is able to record another strikeout. So already a better start in the circle with getting 2 immediate outs. For Maria Gallhouse is definitely not the type of batter to usually go down that easily. So it'll be a tough battle here with 2 away. The first pitch is fouled off. 0-1.
Yeah, as I mentioned during her previous at-bat, Mariah Gallhouse has reached base in both of her at-bats tonight, one by a single and one by a hit by pitch. And, you know, the on-base percentage is always a great statistic. And, again, a testimony to why Mariah Gallhouse hits out of the number 3 spot. You can count on her to get on base one way or another.
And that one's going to be taken for strike 2. So a little bit of pressure here for Gallhouse, but she's a dependable batter. And with 0-2, still not very easy to try to retire her. 0-2 to try to keep the inning alive. That's going to be grounded. Can she beat the throw? Yes, by maybe a step. And those photo finishes are always really tricky, but I do think that she beat it better than just a tie. It was a well-hit ground ball that just was slow enough to allow her to get to base.
Well, number one, I've just finished saying you can count on her to get on base, and so she made sure that she did her absolute best to get there in time. But the other issue there that I had, Taylor, was the shortstop waiting for the ball to come to her instead of charging it because of the speed or the lack thereof at which it was traveling, rolling on the field towards her, and that really made a difference in addition to Mariah Gallhouse just convincing herself, I'm going to beat this one out. So even though it goes up on the board as a hit, that's sort of a mental error that I think the shortstop is probably going to want to have she'd love to have a do-over on that one.
And I know for Hess that has to sting as well, because in the circle it was looking to be a 1-2-3 inning, but now after this hit right here that puts runners on first and second with 2 outs, the inning is going to continue. And so that misplay right there, just not being able to be as aggressive with Berg not just coming in as fast as she needed to, it now takes what was an 0-2 count with 2 outs and puts now a new batter up there, someone who's already gotten on base, or someone who's already actually just generated some good offense.
And now I could say the same thing about Corinne Miner that I just finished saying about Gallhouse, finding ways to reach base. She walked in her first at-bat, reached on an error in her second at-bat. Now you just see her get the hit, and all of a sudden those 3 and 4 hitters are both on base.
And that one will be fouled away. And an 0-1 count here for Chevalier.
And we remember the last inning seeing Chevalier with that play at first base on the overthrow.
And it was that overthrow that allowed the first run to get it for the Spartans. And a similar miscue could do the same again. That one's taken inside for ball 1. The 1-1 here to Chevalier. Looking at the wrist, trying to see what to do. That one's going to be taken low for ball 2. And already, of course, we were talking about the pitch count at the start of the inning. Hess is already at 92 entering this at bat, so I do imagine she might not have a lot more work to do from the circle today. They might want to get a reliever in. And there is a whiff right there for strike 2. Fooled with the off speed.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And I think Lexi knew the minute she swung at that, just like I talked about with the shortstop, she'd love to have had that one back.
A rare error for Lexi now brings the count to 2-2, and a chance for Hess to get out of another jam with 2 runners on. That one's going to be fouled away to the left. So the at-bat will continue.
That's a good way to rebound, though. A really well-struck ball by Chevalier. Just needs to keep that in play.
The scoreline so far for Hess in the game has been 3 2/3 with 6 hits, 2 runs, none of them earned. 4 strikeouts and a walk. Trying to get strikeout number 5, the 2-2. That is going to be taken high for ball 3, and we now have a full count with 2 outs.
And this is where we're going to separate whether the Spartans are really going to put their foot on the gas here or be the team that has left 7 runners on base.
That one's going to be fouled away down the third base line. And so that payoff pitch doesn't work. We'll have to have another one. And all the while, that pitch count will still continue to soar for Hess, who's already gotten very close to 100 pitches in the circle in under 4 innings. Here's the 3-2 payoff pitch. That one is going to be a pop fly. If it stays fair, it'll probably be tracked down. Yes, and the side is retired. The Spartans are once again strand 2. That brings the total amount of runners left on base to 9 in the game. The Spartans were able to find 2 runners to score earlier, though, and still lead 2-0 entering the 5th. And we are back top of the 5th. Tampa still leads 2-0. But an unfortunate stat line for the Spartans is the fact that they've stranded 9 runners on base throughout the game. And Nova Southeastern trying to generate some offense here. They've only had 1 hit. This probably won't be a hit as Minor tracks it down for the first out. So right away, a good start for Minor. Already doing great from the circle with 1 hit allowed, 2 strikeouts, and only 59 pitches.
Well, and even more impressive is that she's only faced 13 batters coming into this inning, which is only 1 more than the minimum. So, really solid game from Corinne Minor. Let's not overlook that. We've been spending a lot of time talking about what they're doing with the bats. But Corinne Minor really having a great game here from the circle.
And normally we see that Minor's pitch count generally gets a little bit higher. A lot of times other teams are able to really take her deeper into innings, but so far Minor has been very efficient, very deadly, and from the circle has done a good job of not getting too exhausted quickly. And we know that Minor has stamina to pitch for days on end. I think that she would take a 130 pitch game and just sweat it off as, yeah, just any other game. But already doing very quick work and now leading 1-2 with 1 out.
This is Emerson Morris, the designated player, who is 0 for 1. She flew out to center field in the 2nd.
But this time, it's going to get right down the middle. It's a little bit of an awkward line drive, but that is a big error for Morris, who just kind of doesn't pay attention, steps a little bit too far to the left of first base, and what we saw from the play is Ballmer's like, hey, you went a little bit too far forward. Sorry, Gallhouse said, hey, you went a little too far forward. Let's make sure you cannot get back in time. And she couldn't. So that is credited as a hit, but she'll be tagged out off the very smart play for Gallhouse. And with things looking to potentially have just broken away for the Sharks to finally get a batter with a great hit up the middle, which was a good hit. It was well placed, nothing that the Spartans could do in the infield. And all of a sudden, you're now looking at 2 outs and just thinking, come on. And that one's going to go well inside, almost hit into Hendricks.
That's a classic case of awareness. Awareness by Mariah Galhouse that there actually is an opportunity at first, and a lack of awareness, as you mentioned, by the hitter to not be aware that there's a throw coming in and hold firm at first base.
And that's one of the key things, is that you always have to tell your runners, listen, if you're going to run past the base, run out to the right. Run out where you won't be able to get re-tagged if they do throw it in quickly to first. So, and like we were saying, that is just great reactions from Galhouse. And now 2-2 with 2 outs. So an unconventional 1-2-3 inning possibility here in the circle. For Minor, that one's going to be taken up high, so we will now have a full count with 2 outs. And one thing that Minor also has in the circle is a lot of control, having not conceded a walk yet. It's going to be a pop fly, tracking it down is Ballmer, and the side is retired. Noah was able to get 1 hit, but thanks to a play from Maya Galhouse, it still leads to a 1-2-3 inning. And entering the bottom of the 5th, Tampa looking to not leave more runners on base this time. We'll be right back. Bottom of the 5th, Alexa Russo leads off for the Spartans here after a 1-2-3 inning, and we've seen some chaotic fielding plays from early in the game. A double play off a deflection, and there, Galhouse gunning a runner down at first base, just catching Morris off guard, and it's led to some pretty quick innings, and now the Spartans are looking to get back to work with ball 1 taken.
And amazingly, what we've also seen, as you mentioned a couple times, is activity in the Nova Southeastern bullpen, yet they're sticking with Emily Hess, who comes into this inning with a pitch count of already 101.
And that one is going to be fouled away, but not far enough. So, it will retire Russo for the first out.
It's an interesting Nova Southeastern lineup. They really scoured the country to find players to round out the 2022 roster for head coach Julie Lemaire. And I'm talking about players from Texas, from Maryland, from Michigan, from New York, from Indiana. But yet, they've also got 4 players from right here in this area, 2 that are from Plant City, 1 from Tampa, 1 from St. Pete. So a real nice mix that Coach Lemaire has found for this year's Nova Southeastern roster.
And it's always good to have local players whenever you're on the road, because it means you'll have some fans coming in to support them. There's a drive deep to left field, but easily tracked down. So it was a good play by Emily Jansen, but not able to convert into a hit. A good job by Smith to run it down. And 2 away here. So in the circle, a potential quicker inning for Hess.
Yeah, Jansen gave that one a real good ride. And if you're Hess at this point, you're saying, I'll take the foul out for out number 1. I'll take that well-hit ball as long as my teammate behind me catches it. And all of a sudden, she's only got 1 more out and gets herself out of this 5th inning if she's able.
And Siegel takes ball 1 right here.
Siegel is 1 for 2 in this game. Singled in the 2nd and then struck out looking in the 3rd.
And second one goes a little bit too inside for ball 2. As we mentioned, that's, I think, the pitching style for Hess. A lot of pitches that have the potential to break right, and against a mainly right-handed lineup for the Spartans, that can spell a little bit of disaster with already 1 hit by pitch. 2-0 here. That one is going to be fouled away. It had a chance to get down, but not in time and a little too far right. 2-1.
Yeah, I think we've seen just enough of the pitches that are a little too close for comfort for the UT batters.
The 2-1 right here, and that will be fouled away as it once again went a little bit inside.
Certainly the point is that the higher the pitch count gets, you wonder if she's going to be able to maintain her control. I'm talking about Emily Hess, and that's how some of those start to get away from you and could potentially result in a hit by pitch.
And that's another reason you get people warming up in the bullpen. But the fifth inning could be done and dusted here for the Sharks. That one's going to be taken inside. And you see that Siegel had to just move out of the way there. So now full count here. All three balls that were taken went a little bit inside and were close enough where if Siegel was trying to lean a tiny bit forward, they could have been hit by pitches. But now the payoff pitch with 2 outs. That is going to be grounded to short. This time the play will be made in time by Burke, and the side is retired. So, it's been a 1-2-3 inning for the Spartans. Nova finally finding some good form on defense. And now, entering the top of the 6th, Tampa still leads 2-0. You're watching the Sunshine State Conference Network. So, the top of the 6th, we are back. And once again on the circle, ready to go, is Curran Minor. That one's fouled away. I almost jolted because it looked like it's going right at me. And I keep forgetting, there's a closed window and there's a net in front of me.
What a difference, though. You mentioned Corinne Minor still there and only 69 pitches for her coming into this inning. And we saw in the last inning that Emily Hess is already north of 100. So a big difference between the two tonight.
It's normally the other way around, where Minor is at this point over 100, and the opposition pitcher is generally under 100. But the Spartans going to be happy with having that difference so far, as that one's taken outside, 2-1.
Wouldn't be surprised if we see Corinne Minor in one of the two games in tomorrow's doubleheader, as you see that one fouled down the left field line.
Especially with the lower pitch count tonight, that's probably a safe bet that she'd be ready for game 1 or 2. Fouled away now, 2-2. And taken low for ball 3. A full count once again to open up top of the 6th. The 3-2. That is going to be lined to the left and foul. So we'll go again. The 3-2. And that will be taken for ball 4. It's going to be Curran Minor's first walk of the game.
Yeah, as nice as it's been to see Corinne Minor with controlled pitch count, kind of surprising. Usually her strikeouts are a little bit higher, and that's her first walk of the game, as you mentioned. Is going to see a conference out in the pitching circle, and meanwhile head coach Julie Lemaire looks like she's going to make a change there, talking to home plate umpire Brian Serafin. And it might just be the pinch runner at first base.
It looks like that indeed, and being down by 2 in a situation late in the game, as you sometimes mention, there's only a few more at-bats in this type of situation. Not surprising to see them bring a pinch runner to try to get some action on the base paths. So now, stepping up will be Alexis Smith.
And in fact, they did put in a pinch runner, Haley Lynch, who is actually from nearby Plant City. She's the pinch runner for Nova Southeastern over at first, following that base on balls. And so now Alexis Smith showing bunt.
And that one will be fouled away off the bunt, 0-1. And obviously I think Tampa's infield and Chevalier are going to be very, very attentive to first to watch if that runner is ready to go and try to steal. The 0-1 right here. And they're going to get a good hit right here. Powered right through the third and short gap.
And you might be able to hear the throng of Sharks fans that are here in the crowd and thrilled to see their team finally display some offense.
Yeah, we've recently had just some quiet 1-2-3 innings, just back and forth. Nova had a hit last time around, but it was just a misread. But there's a missed throw, and now there's a chance for Nova to get a run, and that's not going to be able to be corralled in time. So as we were saying, all it takes is one bounce, and similar to the way that the runs were scored at first for the Spartans, the Sharks fire right back. And now if you're the Spartans looking at a total of 9 left on base, you're thinking, how is it now tied 2-2?
And Abigail Siegel, boy, she just wants to go and hide under a rock right now. That overthrow really hanging her head out there in this conference that you see out in the pitching circle. And a very different emotion, obviously, for the Sharks, getting 2 runs across to tie the game, having a runner at third, and perhaps most importantly, no outs here in the top of the 6th. So it's amazing how quickly the tide can turn, and you hit the nail on the head, Taylor, because the Spartans are going to look back at those 9 runners left on base and say this could be an entirely different game. It could be 6-2 at this point instead of 2-2, and it's just the Sharks maybe with a little moral victory that, okay, we got the goose egg off the board, and instead that 9 runners left on base really, really looms large now, as does this current situation with a runner on third and nobody out.
So a painful way for the game to get tied, but for the Sharks fans, they're absolutely loving it. The first pitch taken here for strike 1. And now there's a chance for Sidney Legere with no outs to try to put the Sharks up by a run. That's going to be grounded to third, and a simple play at first. And you can tell that right there, Siegel made sure that the runner wasn't going to try anything a little bit cheeky when she did make the throw to first. So 1 out here and a runner on third.
This also brings up a point that you made earlier, where if you're the pitcher, you're doing everything you can to get your team through this game, and Corinne Miner doing her part, and just has to be so heartbreaking when one of her teammates behind her ends up with an error the likes of what we just saw, and all of a sudden the complexion of the game changes not only for Corinne Miner, but of course all of her teammates, and she's pitching her heart out and is just going to have to continue to battle.
Battling well so far, now getting ahead in the count, 0-2. And that's a good thing for Miner. To quote Ted Lasso, Miner's a little bit like a goldfish. Whenever things don't go her way, she's always back to throwing strikes, being aggressive, and retiring batters. Never really lets any negative thing get her down as that one's fouled away. It's a reason that Miner's been so efficient, not just from the circle, but in the batter's box. Just the ability to just get back moving whenever there's a setback. That one's fouled away, so still 0-2. Takes the out at home. So the fielder's choice does allow Williams to advance to first, but it'll also prevent the leading run to give Nova the lead.
Yeah, and that's a great play by Corinne Miner, and that just comes with experience, knowing that the play is at home plate. Would have been very easy to go for the out at first just because it's muscle memory, but they keep the game tied, and all of a sudden it's a big difference maker because now there's 2 outs and chance to get out of this inning tied at 2.
So a 1-0 count to open up with 2 outs here in top of the 6th. Ali Janowick not going to want to leave the runner stranded. Fouls it away for 1-1.
I mentioned about the geographic diversity of this Sharks lineup, and this is proof positive right here. Clarksburg, Maryland, Ali Janowick playing her college softball all the way down in Fort Lauderdale.
Fouled away again for a 1-2 count with 2 outs. And we're also seeing Williams potentially looking to swipe a bag, as she was out and running immediately, I think, when the pitch had gone. But now a chance 1-2 to retire the side, and that is going to be fouled away again. So 3 fouls that just tip backwards in a row. Keep the count at 1-2.
Yeah, 2 strikes and 2 outs. No surprise that we see Williams off to the races down at first base.
Allen's going to be grounded to third, and it's a good play there by Siegel. And with a throw to first, the side is retired. The lead has evaporated because of a costly throwing error. And we now enter the bottom of the 6th, tied 2-2. We still got some action to go. And Tampa, we're going to try to find a way to respond after what could have been a dagger to the heart. What turned from a 2-0 Spartans lead, the Sharks smelled blood in the water and capitalized off the error, and now the game is tied once again 2-2. Leading off for the Spartans this time will be Perkins, who's 1 of 2 so far. That one is taken for ball 1.
Yeah, she singled in the 2nd inning and struck out in the 3rd, and you know, this is a case of the 9, 1, and 2 hitters coming up to bat. And so if you're Tampa, you're feeling good about the fact that Corinne Miner threw out that run at home plate, as you see out number 1 here for UT in the bottom of the 6th. You're feeling good about Corinne Miner throwing out what could have been the go-ahead run at home plate. You're feeling good about the fact that you've got the 9, 1, and 2 hitters here. It's a home game. You're going to be batting in the bottom of the 7th if it comes to it. So I really don't think there's any reason for the Spartans to lose their composure at this point. Just continue to go up there and control this game as though you have the lead and play with confidence.
There's going to be another ground ball to second. So again, 2 very quick at-bats for the Spartans. And now there's 2 outs here in the bottom of the 6th. And Hess, still at a pretty high pitch count, has been able to get it done a lot faster in the circle in the 5th and 6th innings, and could have another 1-2-3 inning right here, as it looks like we're going to see a pinch hitter.
Yeah, I was going to say Steph Ballmer was starting to head to the batter's box and then all of a sudden retreated, and Leslie Cantor talking to home plate umpire Brian Serafin, which would indicate that we're going to have someone else come in here in the bottom of the 6th with 2 outs. And so as a result, we're going to get to see Alyssa Carfora And again, it's a different look for pitcher Emily Hess, which is always a nice way to kind of play with the opposing pitcher mentally. And so Carfora coming in here with the bases empty and 2 away, hoping to bring some new life into the Spartans offense and try to regain the lead.
So the 0 to Carfora, that one's going to be fouled away. So 0-1 to open up with 2 outs.
Alyssa has played in just 6 games this year, hitting 167, and I was about to say, and unfortunately, she's going to be out number 3, and wow.
So yeah, I mean, I was about to say that as well. It looked like out number 3, but just mishandled, and Carfora went a little bit too far up as well, thinking, well, I was out. Uh-oh. Then I realized I was safe. Had to run back to the bag and almost got out in the same way that Tampa found an out earlier on. And once again, we're going to see a pinch runner come in. So it'll be Balmer now picking up.
Yeah, Balmer, the re-entry, but Carfora obviously happy going back to the dugout, even though she's not going to be the base runner. Happy to get that bounce there. And Spartans even happier because now this starts to take them into the meat of the order as Mariah Galhouse, the number 3 hitter, who has reached base all 3 times at the plate tonight. And so some optimism here for UT despite having 2 outs in the bottom of the 6th.
So the 0-0 to Galhouse. A chance to try to take a lead here. That's going to be lined and foul. Entering the at-bat, Hess has 115 pitches in the circle, but has done a good job of limiting damage despite allowing a few hits, a hit by pitch and walk. The 0-1 here for Galhouse. That's going to be a pop fly. If it stays, it's going to be just a miss. Fine was trying to run to the wall, but unfortunately for her, I think just a little bit too much speed while trying to track it down. And has a not great collision with the wall. The good news is she looks fine and is ready to get back behind the plate. Now it's going to be 0-2 for Galhouse.
Madison Fine is one of those players that, as you mentioned, you play your softball down in Fort Lauderdale, but from here you know you got fans in the stands. She's from St. Pete, and so the applause for her being all right after that collision with the wall. And the 0-2 on the way now to Galhouse.
Galhouse going to be able to drive it to left field. But it's going to be a good play by Smith to track it down. The side is retired. 1 runner advances on the air. But apart from that, the Sharks keep it clean. We are still tied entering the 7th, 2-2. Top of the 7th, 2 runs for both teams. And we've still got an exciting inning to play and potentially more, as that one is going to be taken for strike 1. Corinne Miner back out there with 89 pitches entering the at-bat. And your thoughts on Corinne's performance so far?
I'm not unhappy with what Corinne Miner's done. It's, you know, some of the things that have happened behind her that have made the difference in this game, meaning that the Sharks have any runs to show for it on the board, I think Corinne Miner's got to be pleased with her own performance. And as I said, probably has every intention of pitching again tomorrow if her coach will let her. So I really think this is going to come down to which team doesn't commit the error. That turns into what we've seen happen so far. That's just a well-hit ball there. You can't blame Siegel. She tried on that one, just out of her reach.
Yeah, that's a great effort on the play from Siegel, and that's unfortunately just one of the universal laws of height just kind of being behind you, because if that's Emily Jansen, she's probably able to reach that without even a jump, being a few inches taller. And unfortunately, that's just perfectly hit, and it's a perfectly attempted grab, but just not enough. So a runner will advance right here, and it looks like they'll probably be bringing on another pinch runner real quick.
Yeah, it looks like Sydney Swantek will come in to run. Haley Hendricks is the batter. She's 0 for 2 in this game, and in both cases, the second inning and the fifth inning, popping out to the shortstop.
So Miner hoping to find the second out here with a runner on. Now it's taken for strike one. So we see, of course, Swantek coming as a pinch runner here. The 0-1 count with one away. Taken just inside for ball one.
If you're Lexi Chevalier behind the plate, you have to wonder, is Swantek going to try to steal? Is that why they're bringing her in? So she's making sure to keep an eye, because Spartans absolutely do not want to allow a runner in scoring position at this point.
That one's going to be taken. Ball 2, 2-1. And yeah, Chevalier is definitely ready to try to fire it to second if they do try to steal it. It's always stressful when you have a go-ahead run at first. You want to make sure it can't get to a scoring position. One's going to be taken. A little bit low for ball 3.
And Swantek, actually her first game action of the season, so not a history, at least in 2022, of being a stolen base threat. But nonetheless, the Spartans can't pretend to have scouted every player on every opposing team. As you see, a ball hit there.
And that is a great play by Fanton to make a diving catch. It almost looked like there was going to be a miscommunication between the trio, but eventually they let Fanton try for it, and Fanton able to lay out and make the play. It keeps the runner at first and puts 2 outs on the board. A chance for the Spartans to get out of a jam right here with the winning run on first. Go ahead, run first.
Yeah, great catch. Great catch by Lauren Fanton. Really good athletic effort by her. And a difference maker in this inning, because all of a sudden you've got 2 outs, and that runner on first base all of a sudden looks a whole lot less threatening. And Corinne Miner knows that she's 1 out away from putting her team into position to win if the Spartan bats can come to life in the bottom half of the 7th.
So Burke up again. So far, Burke was able to get on base from a walk, but also had an out in her first outing. The 1-1 count here. Miner in the circle at 97 pitches entering this game. Count goes up to 2-1 after taking for ball. But it is going to go pretty far foul, and not even the pretty.
Chevalier, maybe just a little bit of influence on home plate umpire Brian Serafin on that second strike. Here comes the 1-2. That's going to go foul and not playable as Smith will stay alive here. Top of the seventh, 2 out, down to the first and second. So, 2 outs right here. 1-2. Go high for ball 2. That was pretty close, but a good eye there for not those days.
That's going to be a line drive. And what a play by Gallhouse. And the side is retired. Barely.
Tremendous catch by Gallhouse. And I don't think that Sidney Swantek even knew.
Testing, 1-2, there we go. So the mics unfortunately cut out on what was an amazing play from Gallhouse to save what would have definitely given the Sharks the lead.
Well, this is interesting because on the one hand, you've got Corinne Miner who can end the game here with one swing at the bat, as we talked about home runs in each of her last 3 games, but also Nova Southeastern finally making the pitching change, and so a different look, so that the Spartan hitters are all of a sudden having to adjust now to Ashley Connor as opposed to Emily Hess, who had pitched the first 6 innings.
So with Connor on the mound right here in the circle, I'll have to see how Tampa's bats can react.
Keep in mind that Corinne Miner has reached base in all 3 of her at-bats this evening. She walked in the first, reached on an error in the third, and then singled in the fourth. So you don't want to come in and all of a sudden the first hitter you face is the cleanup hitter that's reached base in all 3 of her at-bats. But that's the case here for Ashley Connor taking over in the bottom of the 7th.
And
Lexi Chevalier on deck, so it doesn't get any easier.
Yeah, it will be a tough first inning of work for Connor. But I think that's the reason they made the change. Try to get a less fatigued pitcher in to face the heart of the Spartans lineup. With that pitch outside, the count falls to 3-1, and a chance for Miner to advance again on base for a 4th time this game.
Well, and I also think they really wanted to fool the Spartans hitters in terms of not looking at the pitcher they've been used to seeing through the whole game. And as you see Connor bring it to a full count.
So that one taken for strike 2. Full count right here for Corinne Miner. There's going to be a pop to third, and the first out in the bottom of the 7th is put away. Chevalier now comes up. Would be the winning run if she can get on base, but that will be easier said than done right here.
Well, the other side of it is with these 2 teams having combined for 5 errors so far, a routine pop fly like that one, you're watching Tia Williams to make sure she's really going to catch it, just because we've seen some plays tonight that should have been very fundamental that turned into disaster.
That one had some heat behind it, but it goes low for ball 1. The 1-0 here for Chevalier. And that one is going to go straight up and straight back down. But Fine can't get a glove on it. So the at-bat stays alive. And the count is now 1-1.
Fans on the edge of their seats, some of them standing here in the Namoli Family Stadium. Not the way the Spartans would have liked to have seen it play out, meaning the way they gave up the two Sharks runs, but still an exciting game this evening nonetheless.
And the stress, the pressure is real. And even though Connor's done a great job so far from the circle, that extra pressure, meaning that a single mistake could cost you the game, definitely weighs on you while you're thinking about every single pitch. It's now 2-1 right here after that one was taken high. Chevalier is going to line that deep to center, but it's going to be a good play to track it down by Sidney Legere, 2 away to bring up Alexa Russo. And that time, again, it's one of those where you don't know where it's going to drop, and it almost looked like it had the distance to hit the gap and get in behind. But Legere with a smart play to keep it corralled.
Yeah, Alexis Chevalier frustrated 0 for 4 tonight. Gave that ball a good ride.
A good eye to take the first pitch there from Russo, and now it's a 1-0 count. The 1-0. Russo fouls it away, so it'll be 1-1. The 1-1 to Russo as Connor looks at the wrist. Oh, a good whiff right there off the off-speed, breaking low and away. And now 1-2 with 2 outs. One more pitch could send the game to extra innings.
Let's see what Ashley Connor has in her arsenal here.
That's going to be fouled away. Good job by Russo to keep it alive. And in the circle, Connor has been proving tough to tame for the Spartans. Russo still behind 1-2 in the count. Checks the wrist again, fires away. That one's going to be taken outside for ball 2. A little bit of disappointment from the Nova fans.
Well, that was close enough that I think they were hoping that they were going to get the call that I talked about, the way that Chevalier framed the one before that was called a strike.
Unfortunately for Nova, it didn't, so we have the 2-2 right here. Russo's going to line it up the middle, so the winning run will get on first with 2 outs. And the bottom half of the order isn't always the one that you expect to be very active in offense, but every single batter from 7, 8, and 9 has gotten on base with a hit before. Emily Jansen, notably, had earlier as well. And they will be pinch runner coming in. So it's going to be Mackenzie Allen, who will now get on first to represent what could be the winning run. But now it depends on if E.J. Jansen can bring her home. Jansen so far was able to get an RBI on the fielder's choice earlier, and also was able to get a single in the second.
Six different Spartans players have combined for UT's 7 hits in this game.
Jansen hoping to find a second hit and 8th of the night for the Spartans. Whiffs on the first one. Had some good stuff there from Connor to get ahead 0-1 in the count. The 0-1 to Jansen coming up after Connor checks the watch or wrist. It's going to be grounded to short. The throw to first in time. The side is retired, and already Tampa's coach is trying to challenge it. And that looked close, but I think the throw did get in there in time. What about you, Bruce?
Well, the umpires are going to talk this over, and we've seen a call get overturned, but not this one. Now, that did look to me like she was out. Interesting to see head coach Leslie Cantor try to challenge it, but unsuccessfully, so we're going to have extra innings.
Yeah, so we will be back. Don't go anywhere. The game is not over. The 8th inning coming up. Extra innings now in play. We will be right back on the Sunshine State Conference Network. Thanks for tuning in, and it might be nighttime still, but listen, we still have some game to go. So we are back now, top of the 8th. The bunt is dropped down. Chevalier, the throw to first, not in time. So the runner gets on, beating out the throw. So the first pitch for Gallhouse, who has just come onto into the circle, has now let a potential go-ahead run get on first with a race to first base.
Yeah, and I think what you're seeing here is Tampa decided to adopt the same strategy as Nova Southeastern, which is they're used to seeing Corinne Minor this whole game. Let's give them a pitcher that they haven't seen yet, so they're not in the rhythm of what Corinne's going to do, because now it's Mariah Gallhouse. But at the same time, Nova Southeastern is saying, it doesn't matter. We're laying down a bunt to start off this inning. We want to get a runner on base. So they were successful, and now Mariah Gallhouse comes into this game already with a runner behind her on first, as you see the foul ball there.
Fouled away for the 0-2 count here. In the circle, Gallhouse looking to try to get a first out after the Sharks were able to capitalize on a bunt. But we also see his Minor head to third and Keister go to center field. So a few shakeups right there. Now the 0-2 count. And that one's going to be grounded to first. So that effectively works as a sacrifice to move a runner into scoring position with run out. And it was a very off-speed pitch. You could even see her hesitate and just be like, should I take it? No, let me just get it down so we get the runner forward.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the Sharks are happy to get a runner in scoring position and have to feel good about themselves. Keep in mind, this was a game that was 2-0 UT after 5 innings, and it looked like the Spartans were going to take this one without too much of a challenge from the Sharks. And granted, it's courtesy of some defensive miscues that put us where we are, but all of a sudden the Sharks say, hey, we got a runner in scoring position, top of the 8th here, and only 1 out. Feeling good on the road, and first game of 3 in less than 24 hours with that doubleheader on the schedule tomorrow. And hoping here that Tia Williams can do something to keep this inning going for them.
And that one is going to be taken for strike 2. And getting a second out here would help Tampa a lot and relieve some of the pressure that definitely is affecting Gallhouse in the circle at the moment. And that's going to be a wild pitch to throw to third. That's going to be mishandled. Oh. And now, what turns from a situation where you're like, oh boy, that's not great to have a runner on second with 1 out, It's now a runner on third with one out. That's a good play by Chevalier to try to get it in time, but the throw just slightly off as Minor couldn't get it down. There's a grounder to second, the throw to first, and that works out very well. They make sure that Leger can't get home. And so now Ali Janowick is going to step up with 2 outs and a runner on third. That's a potential go-ahead run. Janowick so far is 0 of 3.
Yeah, big sigh of relief for the Spartans there, especially after that Chevalier attempt over to third. Didn't get the runner, and really changes the complexion of this top of the 8th. And Mariah Galhouse trying to wrap this up, get her team back up to bat with the game still tied.
And that one is taken just outside. Good attempt to frame it there, but not enough, so the count goes to 1-1. The 1-1 here from Gallhouse. That one's going to be grounded, gets up the middle. The Sharks take a 1-run lead. Still 2 outs in the top of the 8th, and the Nova fans are absolutely loving it. That was just what the doctor ordered for the Sharks. And now the ball is in Tampa's court.
And you can probably hear in the background, this team travels well in terms of the great crowd support that they have here on the road, and their fans thrilled to see their team all of a sudden now with runs in the top of the 6th and now in the top of the 8th. And what I mentioned a few minutes ago went from a 2-0 Tampa lead after 5 innings to now a 3-2 Sharks lead with 2 out here in the top of the 8th.
The 0-1 here, Gallhouse trying to keep a pace of play that's quick, but there's a good play by the defensive sub in the outfield, Keister, who has replaced Gallhouse at center field. But hey, it looks like Gallhouse was still there, at the very least her spirit, helping Keister make a simple play there. But the damage was done for the Sharks. It's do or die for the Spartans entering the bottom of the 8th. The Sharks lead 3-2. Bottom of the 8th, and we are coming off a strong outing for Nova Southeastern. We're able to get a runner on with a bunt and get her all the way home to give them a 3-2 lead. Tampa still has 3 outs to play with, but a tricky pitcher on the mound in Ashley Connor.
And Lily Keister, the batter here, this kind of goes the other way now. I've been talking about pitching changes so that the players who have gone through the lineup all of a sudden have to see someone different. Even though Ashley Connor just came on 1 inning ago, all of a sudden she's seeing a Tampa batter that's making her first plate appearance of the night. Now let's see how this goes for Lily Keister, who, as Taylor said, made the great catch in center field.
Keister's first plate appearance, and yeah, that's always a tricky thing to have to deal with from the circle. You don't just have to worry about a new pitcher, you have to worry about a new batter. Although, this is a new batter for the entirety of the Nova team, and Connor is also facing all the Spartans for the first time throughout. There's a swing and a miss, so the count now falls to 2-1.
We're at the 8, 9, and 1 hitters for UT in this bottom of the 8th. So Keister, Perkins, and Fanton due up. As you see the 2-1 on the way.
And that is going to be taken for strike 2. Looked a little outside, but however, possibly good framing, possibly just our skewed view from the booth. 2-2 here, a pressure rising here for Keister. And as well for Connor in the circle. That's going to be fouled away. Good job keeping it alive. And you can see that Connor is attacking the outside of the plate throughout most of the at-bat. The 2-2. Strike 3. Can't get a tip on it. So it's going to be a strikeout for Ashley Connor. That's her first strikeout in 1 1/3 innings pitched in the circle. And Perkins comes back up here with 1 out. She would be the tying run if she could find a way on base. Perkins was able to get a single in the 2nd inning, but was sat down with a strikeout in the 3rd, and also got out in the 6th. That one's taken for strike 1 right here. 0-1 in the count. Connor checks the wrist again. Fouled away. 0-2.
But you saw, though, there, as you mentioned, she's very much outside, and I would have liked to have seen Avery Perkins lay off of that one, and could have had a 1-1 count here.
What could have been 1-1 now is 0-2. And that's going to be grounded to third, to throw to first. Safe and in time. That's the 2nd out of the bottom of the 8th. 1 to go. The Last Chance Saloon is now open and running business for the Spartans. And walking in here to try to get a hit is Lauren Fanton. Fanton has had an agonizing 0-4 game, but has consistently been a powerful hitter for the Spartans, and is hoping to provide a spark that they desperately need. That one's taken outside for ball 1.
Yeah, you're exactly right. She's a 0-4, but she's a .260 hitter, so statistically she's due, and no better time than the present with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 8th.
That one is going to be taken just high for ball 2. And a lot of these at-bats can be seen between duels, almost like out of an old Western movie, where you see the Cowboy ace pitcher up against the superstar hitter, drawing and dealing. But so far, it's the hitter leading right now with a 2-0 count. But any mistake could end the game with 2 outs right here. So the 2-0 pitch is going to be important right here. That's going to be taken outside for ball 3.
Steph Ballmer waiting on deck and would love to get a chance to come up to bat for what would be her 4th at bat. She's 0-3.
They could also run a pinch hitter at that position. We'll have to see what happens on the 3-0. And that is going to be taken for strike 1. Once again on the outside, but this time just in the zone. It's now 3-1 right here. Connor checks the watch. With the 1-run lead, you can be a little conservative. You can maybe go for a walk right here. It's not the best outcome. It's going to be lined to the left. It's going to be foul, and a good effort there from Smith, but the dive not going to make it. So we will have to go again. Now 3-2 after the foul ball.
Needless to say, Fanton happy for it to be 3-2 as opposed to Smith laying out and making that catch. So lives to see at least one more pitch in this at-bat as the Nova Southeastern fans are licking their chops here, hoping to celebrate a victory.
Game of the series could be determined with this next pitch. The 3-2. Taken low for ball 4.
I'll tell you what was interesting about that is Fanton was trying to call time and all of a sudden realized that she needed to step right back in the batter's box. So she really wasn't as prepared as she would have liked to have been, and so she could have very easily struck out there. It was very fortunate to get the ball 4 call from home plate umpire Brian Serafin, and as a result, now Ballmer does get that plate appearance that she was hoping for.
Ballmer is going to pop the first pitch up, and it's going to land on the netting, so it'll just be an 0-1 count. We saw her initially square up for a bunt, but instead go for the swing. Ballmer not having the greatest of nights so far, and 3 plate appearances, 0 of 3, had been pinch hit for as well earlier on. But now is a chance to try to help what would be the tying run advance a little bit further on the base path. 0-1 right here. That one's going to be fouled away. So 0-2, and already down deep or early into the count. And all the Sharks need is for that final out, and they could get it on this next pitch right here.
I'll tell you, in a very short amount of time, Leslie Cantor had a lot of instruction for her batter, Steph Ballmer. Let's see how she responds.
So the 0-2 right here. Ballmer is going to send that to left. It should drop in time, though, and that will be the game. They win it at extras. Nova taking game 1 of the road series off of a good hit into the outfield that was able to send a runner home. And with that, it's 2 really good innings from Ashley Connor, who will be credited with the win. And unfortunately for Mariah Gallhouse, who doesn't get a chance to come up, but she was on deck, she is credited with the loss after an inning of work, allowing 1 hit and 1 run.
And it'll go down as a come-from-behind win, what with UT having led 2-0 after 5 innings, and then the Sharks tied up with 2 in the top of the 6th. And then the eventual game-winning run in the top of the 8th. The final line score, 3 runs, 6 hits, 3 errors for Nova Southeastern. 2 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors for UT. And wow, 12 runners left on base for the Spartans, 5 runners left on base for the Sharks. And so these 2 teams will get some rest. Nova Southeastern will maybe celebrate just a little bit, and they'll come right back to work tomorrow afternoon, a scheduled doubleheader with the first pitch at 12 noon. Here on TampaSpartans.tv. And Taylor, still an exciting night, even though the home crowd didn't get the result they would have liked to have seen.
Yeah, it was definitely a very entertaining game, and anytime a game goes to extras, it's always a good time. Nova was able to keep fighting and eventually was able to break through and get the win. So we thank you all for tuning in to Tampa Spartans TV. I'm Taylor Sorthy alongside